Hey guys, it's Crystal, nurse in the north. I am filming another casual video here today. Just kind of a chatty one, something that's been on my heart for a while. Something that I think's been kind of hard to talk about on the internet, if I'm honest. Just because of all the backlash from the anti-vaccination community, but here I am. Today I'm going to be talking about my vaccination experience as a critical care nurse in Canada and what that kind of looked like for me and what that kind of meant. Today's video is definitely going to be pro-vaccination, so if you're an anti-vaxxer, I will be deleting your comments. I don't think this is an appropriate space for you. Yeah, that's just not what today's video is about whatsoever. I am definitely pro-vaccination. Please definitely get your vaccination. We definitely need everyone to get vaccinated. It's super important, and I can tell you firsthand, seeing patients with COVID, that it's just a horrible disease, and if there's anything you can do to prevent yourself from getting it, please do so. I don't really know who's gonna all watch this video, if it's gonna be, regular people in the public or healthcare professionals, but if you're either of those things, welcome. This is a safe space for you, and I guess today I just wanted to talk about my experience because it hasn't been like a straightforward path. Definitely today's video is not about either bashing the government or the system that's set in place to deliver immunizations or anything like that either. I have been absolutely thrilled with my employer throughout this entire pandemic. I feel like so supported by them from the frontline management right up top. They have been so wonderful to us. I actually think the first COVID-19 patient I looked after, my boss was in the same room helping me. So that just speaks to the type of people that they are and the type of institution that I work for. They have been outstanding in giving us the right equipment. We even actually got a little bonus during the pandemic that wasn't supplied by the government. It was from the hospital. They've given us lots of extra staff, and I feel so lucky. Talking to other nurses working at other centers, I just feel like my center has gone above and beyond in a lot of different ways during this pandemic. Also, for public health and the government who are organizing the clinics and deciding who gets immunized and when, that is such a hard job. That has to be the hardest thing to do in the entire world. Again, not here to criticize. I honestly think they did the best they could. A once in a century, hopefully, knock on wood, a once in century event. And the fact that they had to do this so rapidly and on such short notice and kind of deal with all the curveballs that have been thrown at them. Honestly, applaud them. Thank you so much for all your hard work. I guess I wanted to make a video because I feel like people have been trying to talk about their vaccination experiences when they haven't been completely perfect, and it hasn't been super successful. And I do think a large part of that is due to the anti-vaccination community. For example, City News did a little piece I saw they posted on YouTube about a woman who had had Bell's palsy after her vaccination. My experience is nothing like that, but I think it's similar in the sense that she was just it wasn't exactly what I thought it was gonna be. This happened. I'm just saying this because I want people to be aware, but I still want them to get vaccinated. And I think that's what I want to do today too. Kind of that expectation versus reality type of experience. And I think another good comparator to that is people who talk about the challenges of pregnancy. I know I'm comparing vaccination to a lot of random things, but I don't know if you've ever seen those videos where people are super honored, I'm super privileged, I'm super happy I'm having a baby, but I've had horrible morning sickness, I haven't been able to go to work like normal, all these different things are happening that's making it difficult for me. I love those videos because they're just being authentic, they're just being honest about how they're feeling and what's going on in their life. And that's how I want this video to be too. Leave space for anybody who hasn't had that Instagram perfect vaccination experience to share them. And if you're frustrated or something's not happening the way it should, it's just a safe space for you to say, yeah, this wasn't what I thought it was gonna be either. Does that make sense? I hope when we get into my story, this all makes sense where I'm going. Just basically I'm trying to say, I'm talking about the imperfect parts of vaccination, but still pro-vaccination. Happy to be vaccinated in any capacity that I'm given whatsoever. you know, I do appreciate other healthcare providers that have been super open with their journey during this time as well. Someone I can think of on YouTube is the Daily Mundane. She's a Canadian med student at Calgary University. She had posted like her vaccine. There had been some delays with it, so I'm not the only one going through this, and I'm sure there's so many people experiencing the same things and are in the same boat as me. And if not right now, maybe in a couple months down the road, who knows what'll happen. Maybe there'll be more people delayed. I hope not, but you know, who knows? Life and the world is so unpredictable right now. So today is, I believe it's June 10th, 2021. And as of this day, I am not fully immunized. Editing Crystal here. So I apologize for the delay in getting this video up. I do realize this is like over a week ago that I filmed this. I just ended up deciding to ensure that I got the vaccination on the correct day before I released this video. And I mean, of course, I didn't feel well after I got my second dose, which is a fairly normal experience. Yeah, that's why there was a delay in putting this video up, but I am fully vaccinated as of June 17th, 2021, and I'm feeling a lot better. So throughout the entire 2021 pandemic, 2020 pandemic, I've been working in critical care. I started working in critical care in 2018 at a different center, but I came to my current center in 2019, and I've basically been full-time there ever since. We had like 6 months, 7 months of like normal work before the pandemic started. I mean, I am really grateful I was able to be trained in a time that wasn't pandemic, because I know we've hired so many nurses since then that are just like thrown into the fire of COVID land, and that's hard. That's incredibly hard. And if that's you, like, major props. So I think like every healthcare provider that's worked during this time, I had different exposures to COVID-19. And I actually wrote an article for the Canadian Nurse, which I can put the title for here if you want to read it. I can link it below. But essentially it's like a free open access article, so you don't need to go anywhere special to read it. But I just wrote it about my experiences with occupational exposure to COVID and how that was on my mental health and how challenging that was. And I found like doing that article was really therapeutic for me, so I'm hoping this video is the same. Honestly, I can't tell you, I've lost so many tears over this vaccination, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, and I'm sure whether you're public or healthcare providers, this is a rough go. Yeah, like everyone's just had a horrible time, and I'm definitely not here to say like I've had a harder time than other people. I don't think that at all. Like there's definitely pros and cons to what everyone's been through. Some people have been through a lot. And my heart goes out to everyone and anyone who's lost anyone during the pandemic. That's so hard. And I can imagine, because I've lost someone too, but like, I'm so sorry, you know. Anyway, so I worked through the first wave, and then we had a nice reprisal last summer and fall from COVID, or you know, the cases were low. And then when the cases started getting high again, like Christmas time, it was hard because family had asked me to not come to family Christmas, and that was fine, and like that's totally their right, you know, and they just don't know who I've been exposed to. And like it also was just, I agreed with it, like it was just safer for me to stay alone. But a huge part of being alone that Christmas, and like I live alone, just, you know, like I'm a single person, I'm here rocking it out 24/7 on my own, which is fine. Like living alone has a lot of perks too. A huge part of what kept me going last Christmas was like knowing the vaccine was coming. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like mid-December-ish, we knew that it was coming out. And I actually got notified by someone I know who works at a big city hospital in Toronto that they had received their first vaccination on Christmas Eve, actually, of all days. So I was like, oh my gosh, like we could be vaccinated then very soon. Like I imagine they're gonna prioritize us in critical care. Like this is so awesome. So I actually think I did post too on the 24th, around that time frame, like workplace Facebook page, like, hey, does anybody know like when the vaccine's coming to this area? No one really knew, but they're like probably 2 weeks. So that's fair. 2 weeks go by, and yes, they start actually immunizing people, I think even sooner than that, like right in the new year at my hospital. And the way they were doing it was floors that were an outbreak and staffing that was like super, like could be like high risk, but also like kind of hard to replace. Like it's, not to get all semantic about it, but like critical care nurses are kind of special in the sense that we have like a lot more training, and don't always have to have more experience to work in critical care, but we often have like a very intensive process to get trained into work in critical care. So it's hard to find a replacement for us. So I think they were, you know, trying to get us through. And they did, and they were doing it by age when they started off. That was great. And they actually, I think, got like to the 40 somethings. And they got down to me actually, which was so exciting. I got told, yeah, by my boss, you can book it. I was actually working that day. So she's like, yeah, they're open till like 5, but just call them again in the morning if they're closed. Because we had like a central clinic we were calling to get vaccinated. So I ran out of time on that shift to call the vaccine clinic. I was like, no big deal. I'll just call them tomorrow, like she said. And I was off the next day. So I was like, this is perfect. I was like, maybe I can even get it done that day. So I call them like almost like at 8:01 when they open. And the gal is just like, I am so sorry to tell you this, but the Ford government passed down today that you guys are no longer eligible. I'm sorry. Yeah, like as of 6 p.m. last night, we're no longer doing healthcare providers. And she was so sweet, and I can't imagine how hard that is to be the bearer of that news. And I was just like totally thrown back, because I was like, oh, like I didn't see it coming that they would say no. You wait your turn in line, and when you're up, you think, yeah, my turn. And it wasn't, unfortunately. I think when they had made that decision, they had announced that they were going to prioritize like communities that needed the vaccination, because they had like especially high numbers in the second wave. They were going to prioritize long-term care homes, and they were going to prioritize First Nations communities. And honestly, happy to wait behind those communities. Happy to do so. Cannot stress enough that like I was okay to wait behind people who needed it. I'm not gonna lie though, during this time I did see people posting their vaccination experiences online, because that is the thing to do, like everyone's sharing on Instagram, like got my first vaccination. And it's so hard not to fall in a trap of comparing yourself to people. It gave me a really hard time to see their vaccination experience was the girly MD. She's a very sweet gal. She's gonna be a resident this year from Toronto. But yeah, just knowing that like, the med students ahead of me as a critical care nurse, it's so silly. Like it shouldn't be like me being like, you're in front of me, like who cares, like honestly. But I just wanted to also be vaccinated, is the long of the short, right? And I mean, don't we all just want to get done like today? And it wasn't just her. Like there was just tons of people from the States who were like fully immunized by like mid-January, which was so exciting for them, and they definitely needed it. But it was just like, I hope it's my turn soon. So I waited patiently, and I need to go get my planner because I have all the dates in there, and I'm just kind of bullshitting them right now. Oh yeah, okay. So I was right with the dates. January 12th, I was offered the vaccine. And you know what? This is why this was such a hard day for me, because I had a exposure to a COVID-19 patient on that day. So January 12th, I was told I could get my vaccine, I could book it, but I also had an exposure. So I was just ready to get it. I was like, oh no, like I definitely need to get it. I hope I can still get it even though I've had this exposure. Like I was just an emotional bundle that day. I basically didn't get it, but a bunch of people in my workplace had got it. Like the first one, I should say. They got their first one. I don't know if we were exactly half and half. I think it was close to that, in that realm of people who had got vaccinated and those who hadn't. And I will just make a side note, like I love my workplace. It's so great. Like I have nothing bad to say about it whatsoever. The people there are great and work really hard. But I don't think the government or anybody really realized this. And like, I mean, how could you? We would never normally be under these circumstances. But just like I mentioned, it being hard with social media, seeing people getting vaccinated and you not, like it created this dichotomy in the unit, impact patient care, or anything like that. Like it was just something people were talking about. They were like, oh, were you one of the ones that got through? Were you the ones that didn't? I know it just wasn't my hospital that had this. I know there was like a piece from the New York Times in early December saying like a hospital had essentially got a limited number of vaccines and they were supposed to be given to, X, Y, and Z staff. And it just created a lot of fighting and tension because everyone felt they should be first. I'm not saying that was my hospital full on fighting or anything. It was just, people were just, mentioning it and talking about it. And it just felt like just a big question mark where it shouldn't be. It should just be like, all of us nurses are vaccinated equally and fairly, no one should be left behind. But that's just how it rolled out, unfortunately. That's right. And I I don't want to discount the people who had had their first immunization as not having any stress. Like, I know they were stressed as well. Like, whether you were vaccinated or not during that time, people are stressed from the workload, the burnout. And also, I know for the people who had the first immunization, they were super stressed about getting their second one booked. Because at that time, it was just like totally unknown. We didn't know who was getting it, who wasn't getting it. And I know the government was in the same holding pattern, right? Like, the supply was so unreliable in those days. So we just waited patiently, and that's all you could do. I didn't really know anyone else who was getting it at the time. So in some ways, I guess it was maybe easier because the vaccine was being widely distributed. It wasn't open to the public yet. It was, I guess, in a way, kind of easy to wait, but I was anxious to get it. Honestly, when I was initially told I couldn't get the vaccine, that's why I was the most emotional about it. But, you know, you do get to a point where it's like, there's nothing I can do. Like, I literally just have to wait and be patient and be kind, and that's what we did. So fast forward into February, mid-February, I don't remember the exact date, but there was an email that came out that said that vaccinations would resume. People would start getting their second dose appointments first, which they did. That was super exciting for them. I was really happy for my colleagues who were getting fully immunized in February. That must have been like the best feeling ever. Like, I can only imagine, and I still can only imagine because I'm not fully immunized yet. I do believe in herd immunity, so it's just good to know like there's at least a buffer going on. And also, like, around this time, the leadership had sent out an email kind of preventing some of the research on just having the one immunization, and it did look very positive at the time. I should recheck, and I'll just like put some information here, I guess, but from my understanding, having the first vaccination is still really good for you and gives you a buffer against. So it was looking up. About a week maybe after they started booking for their second, we got notified, the rest of us, that we could book our first. The system for it rolled out like a lot differently the second time. It was just kind of a free-for-all. Like, the first time you had to be notified by your manager that you could book an appointment, and they were doing like kind of clusters of people. This time they were just like, yeah, here's a phone number, like everybody who's not vaccinated, just call. I got my appointment for February 21st at 9 a.m. So excited to go. I went to the place where they were doing the vaccines, and it was so smooth. Everyone was so wonderful. It was such a happy experience. They had like beautiful signs up saying like, thank you, healthcare heroes, which honestly, coming out of that second wave was so needed. So stressful. Yeah. Trying not to cry this whole video. So I think I actually even had like just really cool things, like in the waiting area they had like someone leading you through stretches, and just the nicest helpers. And the way my workplace had joined up with the clinic, so you could easily register to show the employer that you had gotten the vaccine, which was super smooth, and I really appreciated it. So I got the vaccine, and I went home and recovered from it. I mean, symptom wise, just in case if you're wondering, like, I literally felt great. I just had a couple aches, but I mean, I felt good, and I was super, like I said, grateful and happy to have the vaccination. I was automatically rebooked at that first appointment to my second appointment, which was to come at the end of March. And that was perfect, and like I felt like I could see the light at the end of the vaccination tunnel. I, wrote it in big letters in my planner because I'm that type of person. They had even let me book it at the time, especially like they were letting you pick a day that kind of worked best with your schedule. And I know that was an experience with people who in my unit got the vaccine right off the bat, like in January, and then second dose in February. I thought that was really awesome. They had basically like said to people, we don't want you to be off work sick, so try and pick a day where you have a buffer to come back to work for a couple days, which I thought was super smart and like considerate. So I booked a special date in March that worked with my schedule, and I was all set. And really, that should be like the end of the story, but unfortunately, I don't know what day it happened. I believe it was like the very first week of March. Let me see if I wrote it down here. I know I got like a text. I'm gonna say this happened like around March 8th or 9th, maybe even the 10th. My hospital did notify us that the rules again for vaccination would be changing, which I get why they changed. Vaccine supply waxes and wanes, and I believe we were trying to mimic the UK, trying to get more people their first vaccine, which again, like I honestly am for that. It was gonna move to that 4-month buffer or just around then. And The way that was going to work is we were going to get automatically sent a text message at a certain time of day saying that when your new date was. And basically my text message read like, appointment canceled, and then your new appointment is June 13th. June 13th is my second appointment. Same time of day, same day of the week, but moved to June 13th. You get a choice of the day or anything. I do think you could have called to move it, but I had heard that it was really hard to do that, and it technically did fall on a day that I was off. I do go back to work the day after I get the second dose, so you know, I hope I'd feel well and everything like that, but that was the date I was given. I'm not gonna lie, very emotional again, very disappointed that it was moved. I was hoping really as critical care staff, like, you know, with half of us being really fast-tracked and prioritized, they would fast-track and prioritize the rest of us. But it just seemed to be happening that if you were in the second group, you suddenly got left kind of in the dust. And I know that maybe is an extreme word to use, but I did feel like I was left behind. I didn't feel like we were all getting equal treatment, I guess. And that's hard, right? I mean, like a month's different, a 2 months difference, and you know, maybe like in 10 years I'll look back from now and be like, literally, Crystal, it was 4 months that you just had to wait. 4 months is nothing. But it felt like a long time, and it still feels like a long time. Especially feels like a long time because right after that we entered the third wave, which was like the worst wave in Ontario, and people were just working overtime and with a bunch of different patients. And when the people who were done in the first group in my unit, the first groupers kind of speak, who were already fully immunized back in February, found out that the rest of us were going to be pushed back another few months, they were so sympathetic. They were so kind and understanding, and they were just like really listened to our concerns and our venting, and I really appreciate them for being open and standing up for us and advocating for us to get moved up. They were so kind, and I really felt like we were still a team, even though we were treated so differently, if that makes sense. I definitely don't think it hurt our team that this happened, and maybe in some ways made us stronger. It's tough, right? And like, not that these conversations came out at my workplace, but I mean, arguably your mind could go to the fact that like, maybe the people who aren't immunized should take COVID patients at all.
The other thing I didn't really talk about during this time was very difficult to be seeing on social media, just like the second wave. There was lots of people posting about getting back to their normal lives now that they were fully immunized, what they would be doing now that they had both of their shots. You know, a good example was Sierra Schultze and Carrie Dayton both had posted videos about like returning to my normal life and living my best life. What am I going to do now that I'm fully immunized? And I think that was just really hard because it was like, I would really love to be there, and it's not even that I would like to go on a trip to LA or I would like to, you know, go to more restaurants or something like that. It's like, I just want to go to work safe, and that's not an option, unfortunately, right now. So yeah, so if you're just seeing stuff on social media and you're feeling down about it, definitely not alone. That was my exact experience as well.
So here I am in a waiting pattern. May 14th, we did get notified at my workplace that we could move our appointment up if it fell after June 14th. Mine fell June 13th, so. But it was kind of a funny email. Like, it wasn't said from my employer or anything. It was like kind of like a message through a message from someone who makes decisions. But it was just like they realized that like not all the critical care nurses had been vaccinated or something, and they were like, maybe we should move these guys up. I know also I heard people trying to get moved to like before June 14th, and unfortunately the clinics were just so booked. It was like next to impossible to do. So I mean, I guess that's good to know that the clinics are really busy. They're moving a lot of people through. People are showing up for their appointments and getting it done. But again, kind of like an offer kind of extended a little bit too late, I guess. I honestly just wish I had been done in March. Like, that would have been ideal. That's the whole point of this video. Expectations versus reality. You never know what's gonna happen. You just have to roll the punches. I do appreciate this experience because I feel like I've built a lot of resiliency from it. I feel like, you know, we do live in a society where instant gratification is a huge thing. We want things now and we get it now. So, you know, learning to be patient, learning to be humble, learning to let others go ahead of me has been so important. I thought I would film this video like after I got vaccinated, like June 14th, but you know, I just felt like talking about it and filming it today. And also, like, I just kind of got notified. I feel like some of my family members were like creeping around trying not to tell me that they were fully vaccinated, because like, it's not that they should feel guilty or anything. I don't want anyone to feel guilty, but a couple people came forth in my family this week and said, yeah, like, I'm fully vaccinated and they're not healthcare professionals or anything and not working with COVID patients or anything, and they're just like, yeah, like, we're done, and they didn't have to wait like the 4 months or anything. So I don't know exactly what's happening with that, but it just made me like a little sad about it, and I want to talk about it and just get it off my shoulders, because I'm sure, like I said, I'm not the only one out there. And if you're going through a delay with vaccination or a loved one and you're trying to get them vaccinated and the appointments just seem really hard to make or get, I feel you. I completely feel you. And I'm here for you. And if you want to share your experience in the comments below, please do so. If you want to DM me on Instagram, go for it. I'm Nurse in the North. I love hearing from you guys, and I really appreciate you watching so much. Yeah, I imagine, honestly, when I go in and get vaccinated this Sunday, I'm just gonna be like so happy and thrilled. I'm gonna forget all about this experience too, and it's gonna be all good. It was different than what I thought it was gonna be.
Hey, Editing Crystal again. Just to round out this video, I really do want to mention that even though I've tried to make a positive out of this experience, I did experience, I feel like, a lot of burnout secondary to these delays in immunization. You know, with everything going on clinically, there was and there continues to be rarely a set of shifts I have that I do not work with someone who has COVID-19. I do believe that not having access to the vaccination really increased my mental stress during that time, and it made it really hard to move forward productively in some work scenarios. I did notice, coinciding with Nurses Week this past year, the Canadian Critical Care Association of Nurses made an open letter to government figures explaining that nurses have experienced a lot of trauma and stress from, in general, the pandemic, and I did support that letter, and I encourage you, if you are a critical care nurse, to support that letter, just to make it aware to government officials that this has been an extremely hard time for us to work, and we really haven't always got the things we needed when we needed them.
Thanks for letting me talk to you guys about it. I'm also glad I'm able to make these little experience videos, in the sense that, like, it's a good way to record how I was feeling at the time. I wonder if, like, even in 20 years from now, we're gonna kind of forget all the emotions, the highs and lows that was going on at this time, or maybe we'll just blanket that it was all bad, which, I mean, fair. It has been a horrendous time in a lot of ways too. Once again, thank you for watching. I appreciate it if you've taken the time out of your day to listen to me. Please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. Please do well and be well. And we will see you and talk to you very soon.